Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to both our APAC community and those interested in our Reveal in APAC journey across the globe. And thank you for those that are listening to this recording that we've done afterwards. Before we kick off today's recording, I would like to pay respect to our community through an acknowledgement of country. I would like to begin by acknowledging the Gadigal peoples, who are the traditional custodians on the land from which we are hosting today's webinar, and also acknowledge the traditional custodians of all the lands from Australia from which we were hosting the Reveal roadshows over the last 12 months. I would like to pay respects to elders, past, present, and emerging, and acknowledge and pay respect to any Aboriginal people listening to today's recording. For those who I haven't met, my name is Simon Barnier, VP of Asia Pacific and Japan. Today's recording is an extension of our December roadshow series across Brisbane, Sydney, and Melbourne, where we hosted the community face-to-face for the first time in 2022, and look forward to doing more of these in 2023. As we wrap up 2022, I've been energized on the growth and momentum within this year and the positive impact to the APAC region. Some of the highlights that are worth showing have been growth of the APAC team on the ground across customer success, consulting, workflow design, and support. Secondly, growth of our partners coming on board the Reveal journey, and more importantly, across Singapore, South Korea, New Zealand, and Australia, with many more planned across APAC. New use cases across the region, including online privacy breach review, corporate investigations, and insolvency, just to name a few. And lastly, launching our Reveal Community Series events, including this user group series and ACED's eDiscovery Leaders Live, hosted by George Socha. Most importantly, how could we not forget the launch of Reveal 11? And thank you to those firms and partners that are now already part of the journey and working with us to improve the platform for the APAC market. The topics we will cover on today's recording were also the basis of the roadshow series over the last 12 months. Joining me in today's recording is some of our global and APAC leadership team. I'd like to welcome Ravi Sathyana, our Chief Product Officer, Enzo Lasciotto, our Director of Customer Success for Asia Pacific. And lastly, Brian Kim, who is our Director of Customer Solutions for APAC as well. Today's recording is about sharing with you, 1, what we have recently achieved, 2, the latest improvements to Reveal 11 since launching on October, and thirdly, the journey ahead. Shortly, you will hear from Ravi, who will provide an update on our product roadmap and what is planned for the next 6 months, and beyond that, how we will provide you a demonstration. But before I hand over to Ravi, Enzo and Brian will take us through of what's coming in Reveal 11.2, and also getting hands-on with the new features. Again, I thank you for being part of the exciting journey of Reveal, and I look forward to 2023. Thank you. Over to you, Enzo and Brian.
Thank you, Simon. What Brian and I are going to present today is our latest release of 11.2. Although we have released 11 mid-year, what we're looking at doing is taking you through 11.1, 11.2. what we can actually see, there's been quite some innovation done in 11. As you can see, we've actually developed it from the ground up. And what we're going to do is showcase some of those core features that has been represented in our latest release. When users log in, they automatically are presented with a dashboard. And what we've done is made this dashboard interactive. So these are interactive widgets that users can actually customize based on certain metadata values that's been implemented and pushed into the platform based on the data that's been processed. We have the timeline, we have the candy bar, which was derived out of BrainSpace. We have these interactive widgets down the bottom here. So if I click on these interactive widgets, these could either be metadata values or work product values. So if I click on this metadata value on extension, I've also got a work product value where I've actually added some keywords. So I've got my responsive terms that I've actually added in the platform. Clicking on this automatically identifies those terms that I've represented and how those documents have been associated with those terms. We also in 11.2 created the ability to extract entities, which was derived out of BrainSpace. So, or we have all these entities, or we can actually go down to these individual entities to identify different information. So again, location will then present the specific locations that have been identified directly out of the data that's been loaded into this project. Again, custodians, again, using any of these metadata values. We also identify the predictive scoring, and I won't touch on this now because I'll get Brian to actually touch on this as he takes us through our AI capability within Reveal 11. Down the bottom here, we've also introduced our emotional intelligence, and at the moment we have positive and negative. So when data is automatically loaded in the platform, we're able to identify based on how once the data is loaded in the platform through emotional intelligence, we're able to identify where a document has a negative or a positive score. And what I mean by that is we're able to look at the content of the document to identify how the person has communicated in that document with either a negative sentiment or a positive sentiment. And to extend that, a negative sentiment, it could be me communicating to Simon and Brian with a negative tone. We're able to identify the negative tone as it's represented here, or if I communicate again, Brian Simon, with a positive tone, the way I communicate, we're also able to capture that information here.
Further to that as well, to what Enzo's comment there is, previously in 10.4, the ability to capture sentiment analysis, what we see here under emotional intelligence, we only captured it purely from emails and communication. Now, in Reveal 11, since the launch of Reveal 11, we've made some advancements and enhancements to be able to capture from our whole data corpus. So based on our 40,742 documents set that we see today, it is now running it across all of our document set.
Thanks, Brian. When we go into our folders, so we actually made some enhancements in our folders. We also brought in the relevant entity. In the folders, we also brought in entity extraction. So as we presented on the right-hand side in our widgets, also identify those widgets. If I click on, let's say, location, I can now click on, we identify the top 5 references in location. If I click on view all, now we're actually able to identify and bring back all the different entities in location. Upon selecting these values, you can see on the bottom right-hand corner, not only we identify the selection set, we also identify the item count. The item count is purely a capture of the relevant counts in here. Although in here you can see that it's 15,000. Upon clicking on search, it's also it brings up 9,000. What this actually is presenting, I've identified 15,000, but the unique item count is actually 9,693. Close out of that. As part of our enhancements, we also have brought over the emotional intelligence, both positive and negative score. As Brian also alluded to, because we do this over the document set, not only we're able to identify neutral, positive, and unscored, documents may have both a positive and a negative score. So if I click on the positive, you can see it's brought back 5,000. If I click on both high, it's actually reduced. So what we have here is 3,033 items that have both a positive and negative score of between 7 to 10. Close out of that. One of the additional features that we've also implemented is in our searching capability. So I'm going to do a search for Raptor. And again, this being an N1 data set, do a search for Raptor, brings back 792 records. What we can actually do now, if I go into my advanced search capability, I've also got these other, we've also identified this other in common. We've also brought in the ability to do reviewed terms list. But what I also want to do is, if I go into my terms list here, I'm going to do a search for energy in Canada. If I go into my table view, what I'm able to do is clicking on this total, then brings back the number of document counts purely against that scope. And the scope here is Raptor, where we brought back 792 records. What we also have the ability is, if I click on show project-wide counts and then rerun that, it's going to bring back the document counts of these terms against the complete data set. So users have the ability to either, when they use the entity search, either search against the complete data set, or if they've already got a scope criteria, disabling that, clicking on that, then brings back those scope criteria. Clicking on add search, as you can see, it's now brought that back down to 443 records. Clicking on that search now, as you can see, all the associated metrics or the statistics against this subset has been identified. We also, on the right-hand side, provide a preview of the documents that have been selected against these 443. If I just close out of this search again, when I go into this search and I go into my terms list, one thing to note is if I do a search for energy again, just for energy, and I go to my table view, you can see now that we have these parentheses. Using the parentheses now, we're also able to identify different searching criteria that can be implemented as part of our scope. Not only that is in 11.2, we also have the ability to use regular expression, and we also provided some examples of using regular expressions as part of your searching criteria. One thing to note is if I click on mix and match operators, brings that back. I'm just going to remove energy. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to change my criteria. And while I do that, I'm just going to get Brian to intervene.
Yeah, so with regards to what Enzo is showing you here, now previously in 10.4, we had a lot of requests coming from not just the APAC region, but globally with regards to, hey, do we currently have the capability to search regular expression within the review platform? Now, the answer to that was no at the time, right? However, we've listened to you guys and we've brought this feature in to be able to do regular expressions. So in review, what we're seeing here with Enzo's search here, under the regular expression, where we've got the term mix and match of MON and JOUR, and then followed by the brackets EY. So what that's hopefully going to represent is the search terms to money and journey. The ability to write regular expressions in here has been somewhat very valuable to a lot of our users here in the APAC region. And just from that alone, we can see that there's 82 results. And on the right-hand side, what we traditionally would search in the grid view, we're now able to see this just by using the right-hand side within the dashboard, which also acts as a preview to our documents.
So as Brian alluded to, I've clicked on this document here. Upon launching the document, yes, I've got the search term for Raptor, which was part of my scope. Clicking up here, I can see all the terms, and I can see the term for money was also captured. So although I did a search for Raptor, which identified 34 counts, 34 hits, the search for money was also identified as, it was also captured 3 times within this document. One thing to note as well is, now that I'm in my document view, what we've also implemented is this save and next. And although the save and next is represented on the top of the screen, click on this little cogwheel here, I can now change my scope criteria to have both the save and next included on the top and the bottom. Click on save, click on the obviously refresh. Now I've got it on both the top and the bottom. So again, navigating from one document to another, one document to another, I have this save and next. So being able to action the associated criteria based on my coding tags, I can actually code the document accordingly, click on save and next. It's going to retain my coding and then go to the next document in my list.
And the thing is, hey, for the APAC team here, this is a feature request that has been derived from you guys. The ability to say, hey, we currently don't have an ability to hit the save and next button upon doing our review on the right-hand side. So on the right-hand side, just like Enzo showed you with the save and next, this is just to avoid any prevention of any RSI symptoms or in terms of mouse mileage. We're talking about, the ability to just minimize the mouse mileage. We now have incorporated this into the tags profile as well.
Thanks, Brian. One thing to also note as part of the coding panel is on the left-hand side here, we've got our default view. And the default view is a view based on specific fields that has been set up by the administrator. What you can actually see now is we've also captured both the positive and the negative score. We also have identified the positive and negative snippets. So these are snippets that is captured out of the document where our AI modeling has identified whether the snippet is either a positive or negative. When we look at these snippets, I've got the negative snippet of 9. And the way that we break down the snippets, we break down the snippets based on a comma. So you can see this snippet here, where it hits the comma, that snippet is referenced to a negative score. And again, the negative score is associated to a negative score of 9. If I close out of my document viewer, go into my grid view, in the grid view here, you can see that obviously we've also got the associated, both the metadata fields, we've also got the AI fields around the positive and the negative score, and obviously the snippets. So again, being able to click on these snippets here, being able to filter on specific range if need be. But not only that, I also have the ability, if I click on the snippet here, being able to search the contents in that snippet as well. One of the things that we've also introduced as part of 11.2 is the ability to manage documents or items in your grid view and associate these items to a work folder. So what we've done is, if I was to select these 4 documents here, you can see selecting these 4 documents, it now brings up this little icon, this little reference here. This reference here allows us to do a drag and drop. Previously, there was a number of steps that a user would then action to add those documents to a folder, but being able to now select the relevant documents and being able to drag and drop those documents directly into those work folders. One of the new features that we've also incorporated is the ability to identify hidden content, but also make reference about those hidden contents to the end users. So if I click on this hidden content, I've got these 5 documents. Upon opening up this document here that I know has hidden content, what we've done is we've presented to the end user this dialog box that is referenced against this icon here, where it's actually surfacing what the hidden content that was associated to this record. You might have an Excel file that has hidden rows, hidden columns, hidden worksheets. At the moment here, this document has only one hidden reference, which is author history. If you had a document that had 3, this item count here would be 3. And again, it'll also detail the associated hidden items that is also selected in this document. As an administrator, I can hide this dialog box from being represented. So by default, it's available for when users log in and undertaking their review. But if it gets if it becomes a nuisance to the end users, we also have the ability to hide this dialog box from being presented.
And further to that as well, sorry to cut you off there, Enzo. Further to what Enzo was just showing you there as well, is that some of the other examples of some of those hidden contents could be encrypted items and so forth. However, depending on how you would set up your grid view, just like Enzo is showcasing here, we can see that we can filter by has hidden content, has embedded objects, and the actual hidden content itself. So just by looking at that as well, some of our users today can see which ones contain the hidden contents.
Thanks, Brian. And from here, I'm now going to transition to Brian to touch on both the AI predictive scoring in the dashboard, AI-driven batches, and the supervised learning.
Thanks, Enzo. So what I'm going to talk to you today about is the AI-driven batches. So as you can see on the grid view here, up on the main screen here under AI-driven batches. Now, something that was not available in 10.4, we now have the ability to be able to do AI-driven batches. And what I mean by AI-driven batches is, if I click on this, we're now presented with a pop-up window that showcases the AI-driven batches based on our classifiers. And what I mean by classifiers is the engine that produces a model that helps you find more documents that you have tagged and be able to find similar type of documents, which is called the AI. In our case, we've got a tag called responsiveness. Now, the tag responsiveness has been converted as a classifier, has been associated to a tag profile, because we want to associate the specific tag to a tag profile. And further to that as well, we're now able to assign based on AI-driven batches. Now, this is something traditionally you would have done as a manual step, whereby you would have based it on a save searches. Hey, bring me back an AI score that has 70 or greater. And then based on those scores, based on your search terms, you will then have to derive this manually. However, using some of these AI-driven batches, we're now able to use the AI-driven batches option just in here. So when I click on this AI-driven batches, what it's actually doing is it's actually batching out based on the active learning. Now, when I say active learning, we've got two options. The two options for active learning, firstly, is the diverse documents. So when we batch out based on our option, based on our selection of diverse documents, it will batch out based on 0 to 30, 30 to 70, and 70 to 100. The second option that we have is our high scoring documents. The high scoring documents, when we click on the AI-driven batches, it will derive out, or it will batch out high scoring documents that have a scoring of 70 to 100. I'm just going to quickly show you, I'm just going to cancel this, go into my supervised learning component and show you how you can customize this. So going back into my classifier. Now, originally, this would have been a tag called responsiveness. Once I've enabled this in the backend as a project admin under responsiveness as AI, this now becomes a classifier. If I go in within my classifier, under here, I can stipulate whether I want to batch out these documents purely based on diverse documents or high scoring documents. Now, if I was to click this after, let's say, reviewing, let's say 100 documents, and I say, you know what, Brian, I'm now happy with what the AI's learned from this. I'm happy to just take on diverse documents, or vice versa. I'm happy to take on high scoring documents. In that case, it will automatically convert as soon as my retraining interval of 40 documents has now been complete. Now, we have now given the, we have now enabled for our users to be able to choose these settings to say, hey, batch out a size of 20 based on my retraining interval of 40 documents from my training queue size of 200 documents. Just be mindful that in order for the AI to start learning and start training, we need a minimum of 4 positive samples and 1 negative sample. I'm just going to close out of this. Now, as you would have seen as I was scrolling up, we currently have the ability to add in AI existing libraries to our existing classifier. Now today, as you would have known, we have currently 20 AI library models available to you today. Now we're bringing an additional 10 models, and those 10 models shortly will be distributed out to you in the next coming updates. Further to that as well, they would be very investigation diverse focus based on our AI library models. Further to that as well, we have the option to be able to choose the weights based on our auto tuning option. You can either enable auto tuning, or if you'd like, based on the documents that you are viewing, whether it's an email or whether it's a specific app type, we're now able to determine the different types of weightings based on our documents. Now, Enzo, was there anything further that you want to add in terms of the weighting?
Yeah, if you just hit cancel there for a second, Brian.
Yep.
When you go into the weighting, when you go into the weighting criteria, The weighting criteria is based on obviously the auto tune. So if I click on the settings here, auto tuning in here is based on these 1,000 documents threshold. So once the 1,000 documents have been coded against the associated AI tag, these scores here, what you can actually see is going to update based on the content against these 1,000 records. And again, as a user has also ability to change what the auto threshold is. By default, it's 1,000. A user might want to change it to 2,000. But what it does is that when it hits those 1,000 documents, based on how the documents have been scored as a positive, it's then going to realign these weights and associate these weights against the content that have been scored against that positive weight. So at the moment, this author here is 0.001. After the 1,000 documents, if the author is a big contributor to how the document scored positively, this weight here might actually change from 0.001 to a 0.1, for example. So again, be mindful that the auto-tuning will auto-tune these weights based on the documents being scored as a positive, but users have the ability, as you just shown, Brian, to change the scoring themselves of what the associated field value is in these metadata items to identify how prominent these items are to how the documents are going to be scored against that positive weight.
Thanks, Enzo. I'm just going to touch up on one more thing before I hand it to Simon. Is if I just go back into my classifier, I'm just going to view the details with regards to this responsiveness classifier. Now, if you look at this responsiveness classifier, now we have given you the option to say, hey, show me all of the charts based on my rounds. So whether I'm doing a current control sets, we're able to see based on our control sets, whether we're on our current round, whether we're on our current round 1, 2, or even 47 and so forth. Now, we're able to see a representation of the graph in here based on the control sets in the case that we have run a control set. Now, vice versa, if we were to scroll up into our tagging and scoring based on our live production matter, you'll see currently, because we're currently on our round 2, you'll see a bell curve. Now, this is quite typical when we first start off with a lot of our tagging and going through our classification model. Now, as we go through the rounds, what is deemed to be a pretty good looking classifier is that you'll now see an inverted bell curve, whereby you'll have some higher scoring on the low end, low scoring documents, and you'll see some high scoring on our higher scoring documents, and vice versa. It'll start looking like an inverted bell curve. Now, in summary, what I wanted to explain to you was that the ability to do AI-driven batches, whether it's AI-driven batches, whether it's supervised learning, we've now made it super simple so that, whether it's not just our project administrators, but for our reviewers, it's just made it easier so that you don't have to be afraid of using the supervised learning component. And on that note, look, I'll hand it over to some.
Excellent. Thanks, Brian and Enzo. And sensational presentation and kind of demonstration of Reveal 11.2. And as Brian and Enzo shared with you, what you've seen in this recording is just some of the small updates that we've made since launching 11.0 in October. And what energizes me is not only with the speed we're operating at, and what you're seeing within the product, but what we're also doing is listening to the community. And a lot of the features that you've seen today has come across from our original 10.4 foundation, but also we're hearing from the community, not just globally, but also within Australia as well. And this wouldn't have been being possible without a kind of a big thanks to our product management and development group led by Ravi. So a big thank you to Ravi and his team, and welcome to Ravi on this call. So with that, I'd like to share an opportunity for Ravi to take you through the Reveal roadmap of what we've achieved in the last 3 months and what the journey is ahead into 2023. So with that, welcome, Ravi. Thank you for your time. Congratulations on what we've achieved to date. And over to you, sir.
Thanks, Simon. Let me start by thanking the entire APAC community for your overwhelming response to R11. Your feedback and suggestions have really helped us incorporate many new features and workflows into the product. And I really look forward to our continued partnership and collaboration as we move into 2023 and beyond. I thought I would start by giving a quick overview of the R11 journey itself. Which really began almost 2 years ago after the BrainSpace acquisition. So we began development in January of last year, and we released R11 in September of this year. And we brought together the two leading legal AI technologies in BrainSpace and XLP into a single pane of glass user experience. Right? So it brought together both the data analytics as well as the visual analytics component. And we've continued to build on that. So now we have now moved into a monthly release cadence. We released 11.1 in November. We just released 11.2 last week in December. Then 11.3 is scheduled for January, 11.4 for February, and so on. So the main goal behind these monthly cadence is the rapid delivery of innovation and business value to our clients. So in R11.1, you saw many of the AI features like sentiment and entity detection that were included. Now we plan to build upon many of these features. We'll be including more emotional intelligence models as we move forward here, along with additional entities as well. And then the dashboard upgrades, which really allowed for some of the widgets to be displayed on the dashboard, again, giving you easy access to these insights. Same with as far as filters are concerned, and then the dynamic search builder upgrades itself, which also included pill level expansion. And I kind of just want to touch upon RQL here, which is our own reveal query language. Having our own query language allows us to incorporate some powerful search capabilities. And the first thing that you see here under search builder upgrades, which is expand by family and thread at the clause level. To me, this is a great example of the kind of the capabilities that it gives us, because we have created our own query language. So now not only are you able to expand at the search level, but you can also expand on families and threads at the individual clause or at the individual pill levels as well. So really allowing power users to create as many or complex searches as they want. In 11.2, as Enzo and Brian demonstrated so well earlier today, you've seen a number of these facet count enhancements, again, review efficiency, and then the dynamic search builders, along with, of course, on the AI front, adding classifier reports as well, along with some backend improvements to our analytics pipeline. So as we move forward into 2023, this is our 90-day roadmap. So one of the themes, we call it the 3S initiative internally. That's the speed, stability, and scalability. So this covers not just from a product point of view, but also from an infrastructure perspective. So making sure that any task that you submit is executed as efficiently and optimally as possible. We are also incorporating new analytic pipeline enhancements, and language specific analysis is a great example of that as well. So already in R11 today, we can handle dozens of languages, but we want to add more specific analytic capabilities based on the language. So be the tokenization, the phrase detection aspect of it. So you will start to see language specific analysis, which really helps improve the quality of the phrases that are detected. And so that will result in better quality labels that are generated, say for the cluster wheel. You'll see better phrases and terms in your concept searching. Plus, as you go into supervised learning, because the features themselves are richer, you'll see better quality of results as well. So that's coming in the next 90 days. Then, of course, from the AI innovation side, being able to publish custom models. So as you know, our AI model library is a huge innovator and differentiator for us. So you'll continue to see us build upon that. And then from a review point of view, our core review workflows, things like printing enhancements, reporting enhancements, and then being able to consolidate our batching. So whether it's user-created batches or whether it's AI batches, we kind of want to bring it into a singular workflow to make it much more efficient for our users. And then from an Australian protocol point of view, from the review side, I think I pointed out earlier that on the processing side, we added a number of enhancements to support some of the unique needs of the APAC market. So we'll continue to build on that. But we'll also add the same capabilities on the review side, right? Some of the numbering, unique numbering, and then also the ability to export out multiple natives. So you'll see that in the upcoming quarter. As we move forward into 2023, here is kind of a broader look at our 12-month roadmap, so to speak. So the key differentiator and one of our core theses and really part of our DNA is the AI aspect of it. So you'll continue to see us innovate on the AI side. A couple of things that are listed here are already in the product: sentiment and entity analysis. You'll see other things, be it the communication analysis, the focus, of course, short message format and streams. Streams is a brand new visualization that is really targeted across multiple channels of data, communication and data, especially when you think about short message format. And so on the same front, from the data analytics side, so that's the streams is kind of the visualization to go along with the data analytics, but at the backend piece, HPC, which is a high precision classification, which can work really well on small amounts of text. We're pretty excited about that because as we move into these shorter forms of data like short messages, that's where the quality of the AI, the quality of the data analytics to go along with our visual analytics will really help deliver that key value to our clients. And then, of course, as I pointed out earlier, the review enhancements for the Australian protocol will continue the multilingual support, be it on the entity extraction side or on just on the language analysis, some of the counts. Then the 3S initiatives, that's going to be an ongoing theme for us. Then that should be an ongoing theme, really not just over the next 90 days or 12 months, but really it's a persistent theme for us. Then I'm pretty excited about data breach, supporting the cyber incident response workflows. So we have some pretty neat ideas and visualizations planned and dashboards, really some custom dashboards planned around supporting those workflows. And then we acquired Technically Creative. We announced that acquisition a few weeks ago. So that gives us access to a very rich suite of connectors like Slack, Teams, Office 365, as you see here, and many others. So you'll start to see that incorporated into R11 as well as we move forward here, again, creating that single pane of glass experience across any of the products that we bring into our family. Then from the data processing side, we've added Australian numbering support on the processing front a couple of months ago. We'll continue to enhance that as well as add full API support. So there have been a number of requests from our clients about wanting to develop custom workflows and automate some of their workflows around processing. Review already has a rich set of APIs, and we want to bring together similar functionality onto the processing front as well, so that you'll be able to fully automate your workflows if that's the path you choose. So it's really kind of exciting. I think we have a number of key initiatives, and as you can see, a number of new AI innovations along with just the core review efficiency type of capabilities and features that we have planned for the product, along with new workflows as well, like data breach or cyber incident response. So yeah, look forward to sharing more as we start to develop these features and we start to incorporate them into the product. And again, look forward to your continued feedback and collaboration to make R11 the best that there is in the industry. So with that, thank you again, and have a very wonderful holiday season and a fantastic new year. Simon?
So thanks, Ravi. And as I touched on earlier, a big thank you to you and your global product management and development team. And even with myself being in the business for just coming on 12 months, the phenomenal work that we've done in delivering Reveal 11 to the market and the improvements just over the last 2 months I believe is one, phenomenal, but two, is also market leading. And not only will we stop here, but what I'm excited about, what is going to come in early 2023 and beyond. As Ravi touched on, important to our growth in the revealing APAC region is to get feedback from the community. We've been getting a lot of feedback to date over the last several months. Let's continue with that feedback, continue with the one-on-one sessions, and continue to get you involved with our development group. So in closing, this has been our third series in our Revealing APAC community series. And we'll continue these again in 2023 with our first event being planned for March in March timeframe. Also, we'll continue on with our e-discovery Leaders Live hosted by George Soshap. So let's continue to get the community involved in those. And Reveal will also be involved in many events that we're planning for May and June as well. So with that, a big thank you to the community for 2022 and look forward to 2023 for even being bigger and better than what we achieved this year. Thank you again. And thank you to Enzo, Ravi, and Brian for your time today. Thank you.